I wanted to go back a little bit in your career when you worked at the White House. What was like advising on tech policies at the White House?
Yeah, so I will always describe it as the most fascinating and frustrating experience because everyone there wants to do good. They want to do good by the American people, American citizens, but the nature of an organization at that size just moves so slow. We know big companies move slow, but the
Yeah.
biggest employer in the United States of America is the federal government, and so it just by its very nature of its size moves incredibly slow. So it's hard when we have to think in decades. And so what they would tell us on day one is the work you do here, nobody will remember your name. You will not get any credit. But 10 years from now, somebody somewhere will get credit, but it'll only have been possible because of the work you did 10 years earlier. And so you just have to
Yeah.
know that like this isn't about it's a different game you're playing. It's a different objective, and it's much different than I think like the founder life or the startup life, or even just as we push our own career ambitions ahead.
And do you think the tech government relationship has improved or worsened since you left the White House?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people would say because I was in Obama's last term, so then after that is Trump, then Biden, then Trump again, and I think it took a hit because a lot of people in Silicon Valley lean a little more left and they're a little more liberal, and then so when Trump came into office, they just didn't agree with him, didn't agree with his policy, so they didn't want to have anything to do with the institution, the White House, right? Because the White House is synonymous with the president. So if the president is right-leaning, then the White House is right-leaning. And so it meant a lot of coastal people from New York and San Francisco separated themselves from government. And then now, we're seeing it again with Doge. And, you're seeing some people get excited because, they are big fans of how Elon Musk operates, but you're seeing others being turned off by it. So we're back into this cycle of
Now
it's kind
he
of,
also left
he did
his
recently. Yeah.
position, actually. Yeah.
So, but we're like, it's kind of buying. It's like on or off. There's no in the middle. I think that's just a bigger problem with American politics in general. You're either pro-life or pro-choice. You can't be anything in the middle. You're either for gun control or you're not. You can't be anything in the middle. You're for free speech or you're against free speech. You can't be anything in the middle. And so, technology, I think, falls into the same camp, and I think that makes it hard. So, we don't have great. Technical leaders. We don't have great engineers sort of signing up for service is the problem.
Yeah, I would think we would have much more efficiency if that was the case, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a lot of people, and it's unfortunate. We see this the same in education, where there are a lot of amazing human beings whose goal in life and whose their calling is to be a teacher. But then you get other
Yeah.
people where it was the backup job, it was the fallback, and they shouldn't be teachers, but they are teachers. We see the same thing in government, where there are some people where it was their calling to serve, and there's other people where it was just the best job they could get at the time. And it's unfortunate that those types of people, it'd be nice if they weren't there, because they do slow us down, they do create the bureaucracy.
Now, you also went to Twitter and you stepped into Twitter as a general manager at a very turbulent time. What was that like internally, if you can give us a picture?
Yeah, no, it was again. Also, I mean, I think most of my career is some combination of fascinating and frustrating. So Twitter was right before the White House, so I left Twitter to go to the White House. So that worked out well because it was turbulent. We sold our company to Twitter. Jack Dorsey did that deal, which was exciting, but he wasn't CEO, and Dick Costello is. But this is the time at which Dick's about to leave, Jack's about to come back, Twitter's about to IPO. So this is all happening in the same 12 to 18 month period. But also the more exciting thing for me is not the internal politics. It's just Twitter, the application. If you go back to the 2011, 2012 time period, it's 140 characters. They don't have their own app. They're just acquiring TweetDeck. They're just acquiring Tweety2. So they have to buy other people's apps to bring it into Twitter. So Twitter is not a very mobile-centric company. It doesn't have any photos. You can't post photos or videos on Twitter. Yeah. It's just text. People forget that. Like the famous photo we see of the plane in New York crashing into the Hudson that really helped put Twitter on the map. that's a tweet pic photo. Like there's a third-party service who had to do that. And so to watch Twitter kind of go mobile first so far after its infancy, even though it was a mobile company, that was fun to be a part of.
And if you see Twitter today, for example, or X, how we call it, is it like a completely different company from what it used to be when you were there, right?
Well, it's so funny, right? Because
you think it's gotten better or worse? And some people have different opinions regarding that. It's
because I was there
very
in
polarizing topic.
I was there in 2012, so it's 13 years ago. So it's it's changed so much. So that I don't, I'm so far removed. I'm not even the right person to answer that question. But I think it's in a better place. I think that it is moving faster. It has become more efficient. I do not think that it needed as many people as it did. So I do agree with sort of reducing the staff, and I do agree that a lot of things were overthought and that slowed things down because there was just too much. They wanted Twitter music and Twitter events, and it was just Twitter everything. And there was no focus on the core product, and they lost sight of that for a moment around the IPO.
Yeah. After Twitter, you started 𝗥𝗓, and 𝗥𝗓 was acquired by Brex. Brex is a bank I also use myself, so it's a company I really like. And you joined them as head of product. What was your biggest lesson building at Brex scale?
Yeah, so two of my people that worked for me years ago, and then we became co-founders together, Mike and Evan. They started 𝗥𝗓, and then they brought me into it, so they get the credit for starting 𝗥𝗓. But I do help the M&A transaction, and we sell to Brex, and I go as a part of that transaction, and it's to go build out their expense management. So I was leading product for what they called spend, but then really thinking about like bill pay. And it was also an exciting time because I'm a big fan of Brex and I'm a big fan of fintech in general. But this was a moment where you're right before the world gets generative AI. So we all get introduced to ChatGPT in November of 22, but it's June of 2020 that the GPT-3 beta gets released where developers can really start playing with it. Some people have earlier access, but for the most part, most of us get introduced. And so now it's just fun to be in a space where it's like, okay, what is the application of this new technology and where could it impact? And to be at Brex at that same time, because they move so fast. And that's a result of like their own culture. And it's for better or worse. When you move fast, things do break, and you kind of build that into the model. But there's just a lot of competition now. Ramp, Mercury, Row, all great banks. But who can move faster and who can build better products that drive more value? And as an entrepreneur and a founder, I really liked that. I mean, they push the culture hard. It is a fast-paced environment. It can be grueling, but you are working on really big things, impactful things, and you're doing it like faster than just about anybody in the industry, which is fun. And their whole mantra was use the best in breed technology, spare no expense, don't cut corners, like use the best. And so that was fun from a product perspective.
So I believe these are some of the things you took with you with 𝗥𝗓.com as well, right?
There's a lot from our time at Brex that underpins sort of how we think about 𝗥𝗓. But one of the big ones was just generative AI. The whole world's having a freak out moment in June of 2020. But for us, it was generative AI on top of OCR. So we were using a lot of Google's OCR tech at Brex to parse invoice data and extract data from invoices. And when we realized we could put generative AI on top of OCR, make it more efficient, more accurate, and faster, we realized we could do much more than just invoices, legal documents, contract management, payment facilitations, account receivable automation. And so that just sent us off this whole other path of like, wow, there's a separate and much larger business in our opinion, and we want to go chase that.
Now, one other thing that you do, as I said, you wear many hats, is that you are also an investor at the venture fund. What's your thesis as an investor? What kind of founders or ideas excite you most?
Yeah, so there's a million ways I can answer this question, like the technical one. We're generalists, early stage, but I think the better way for this interview, I'll answer it, is I don't. So there's, and I don't want to get into too much of the venture math, but there's something called the power law. So you invest in a whole bunch of startups, and most of them will fail, and one or two of them will be such a big breakout success they pay for the failures. My take on the power law is fundamentally important to venture capital, but my take, the way I look at it, is I never want one of my portfolio companies to go to zero. Because if they went to zero and they truly failed, it means three things were true. One, there was no talent on the team. There was no proprietary technology on the team. And then there was no real traction of any value that they had generated. And so one of those can be true, but all three of them cannot be true. So
Be true.
when they go to zero or they're failing or they pivoted so many times, they're like, it's just over. If the team is really talented, and the technology they've built is really strong, somebody somewhere will acquire that. And I've been fortunate as an investor, because I'm an investor in some really cool companies where I get no credit for being an investor in that company. 𝗟𝗓 is one, Figma is another. I am not a good enough investor to be early in 𝗟𝗓 or Figma, but what I am, I'm a really good investor on the early stage side of founders who, when they decided the best exit opportunity for them was to get acquired by Figma or 𝗟𝗓. And not to say that those startups were doing bad, it's just like that was the path they wanted to take. Instead of getting cash, I got equity in the acquirer. So I get on the I get on the cap table of 𝗟𝗓, and that's great for me, right? Because even if I get 1 for 1 of my investment, or let's just say I even get like 50 cents on the dollar, those companies are going to do so well that I will have increased the value of my original investment, because I'm basically jumping to a new rocket ship, and it's a rocket ship that's moving faster and higher. So to answer your question, that's what I look at. Is I look at really strong founding teams that are technically savvy, that can build really strong technology. I hope those two things make traction, but I'm really betting on the first two.
Now you have started 𝗥cie.com. So how do you switch your mindset from an investor to a founder? Because you do both at the same time, right?
No, to me, it's really easy. And because I do a lot of stuff. I also teach at Northwestern University still. But when I think about a venture fund and 𝗥cie, there's a couple things. One, as a founder, I need to constantly be exposed to other founders. I need founders, really great founders. They're awesome at seeing the things that nobody else sees, right? Some opening in a market, some way to use the technology. So when I hear these pitches, it's just creative fuel for me. So I appreciate that. I also, at the end of a call, if it's going well and I think it's appropriate, I will ask the founder, like, hey, are you using 𝗥cie? You shouldn't be paying for it. I'm not going to pitch 𝗥cie, but just to reduce your burn, don't pay for 𝗥cie.
By the way, I use 𝗥cie as well.
Hey, I love it. I love it. It is becoming the founder's tool of choice, and I've been appreciating that. So thank you very much. But I also don't want to be insincere with a pitch. I don't want a founder feeling like I took a pitch because I'm looking to pitch them 𝗥cie. Just at the end, if I feel like we've made a good rapport, I was like, hey. So it works out that way too. And then relationship building, and then hey, I have capital to deploy. I want to make great investments, and so it'll help me personally. But I do get a lot of intrinsic value that rolls over into the 𝗥cie world.
If you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like this, click here. And if you want to see the entire podcast, click here.